The rooftop bar buzzed with forced laughter and clinking glasses, 50 floors above the city that had become my prison. I stood there in my off-the-rack suit, watching my wife Rory work the crowd like she owned every soul in the room, which apparently she did. Brent, her voice cut through the ambient noise with surgical precision. Come here, honey, we need to talk. 20 years of marriage had taught me to recognize that tone. It was the same voice she used when firing underperforming employees at her creative agency. Clinical, final, wrapped in fake sweetness that fooled absolutely no one with half a brain. I walked over, my construction boots clicking against the polished concrete floor. Everyone else wore designer shoes that probably cost more than my monthly truck payment. The agency's summer party was always like this, a showcase for people who thought creativity meant choosing between 17 different shades of black for their wardrobes. Logan Channing stood beside her, his arm draped possessively around her waist. The regional director of the agency, 10 years younger than me, with the kind of artificial confidence that came from never having worked with his hands. His smile was all teeth and no warmth. Brent, Logan said, extending his hand like we were meeting for the first time. Great party, right? I ignored his hand. What do you want, Rory? She pulled an envelope from her designer purse, the kind that cost more than most people made in a week. Her friend Zara appeared beside us, phone already recording. Because of course she was. Zara Fincher, professional gossip and social media vulture, never missed an opportunity to document someone else's misery. I think it's time we made this official, Rory said, handing me the envelope. I've already signed my part. The papers inside were exactly what I expected. Divorce documents. Neat, legal, and devastating. The crowd around us had gone quiet, sensing drama like sharks sensing chum in the water. Here? I asked. Now? Why wait? Logan said, producing a pen from his jacket. Unless you want to drag this out and make it harder on everyone. I looked around at the faces surrounding us. Coworkers who had pretended to be friends, neighbors who had eaten at my table, my own daughter Danny, home from college, recording everything on her phone with the detached interest of someone documenting a car accident. The smart play would have been to walk away, take the papers home, call a lawyer, handle this privately. But these people had orchestrated this moment for maximum humiliation. They wanted a show. I took the pen and signed every page without reading them. My handwriting was steady, controlled. When I finished, I handed the papers back to Rory and leaned close enough that only she could hear. You have no idea what you've just done to yourself, she laughed, loud enough for everyone to hear. Oh, Brent, always so dramatic. The crowd actually applauded, like they were watching some romantic comedy where the plucky heroine finally escaped her boring husband. I stood there for a moment, memorizing every face, cataloging every smirk and whisper. Then I walked away, leaving them to their celebration. The elevator ride down felt like descending into the earth. 50 floors of silence, watching the city lights blur past. By the time I reached the parking garage, I had made my decision. They wanted drama? They'd get more than they bargained for. Logan's Tesla sat in the executive parking section, pristine white paint gleaming under the fluorescent lights. I walked past it to my pickup truck, an 8-year-old Ford that ran perfectly because I maintained it myself. Unlike some people, I knew how to take care of what mattered. I drove home to our house in the suburbs, my house now, technically, since my name was the only one on the mortgage. Rory had never wanted the responsibility of actual ownership. She preferred the appearance of success without the work required to maintain it. The house felt different now, empty in a way that had nothing to do with Rory's absence. She'd been emotionally gone for months anyway. I'd just been too stubborn to admit it. I sat in my workshop in the basement, surrounded by tools that actually served a purpose, and planned my next move. The divorce papers were just the opening act. If Rory wanted to play games, I'd show her what a real game looked like. My phone buzzed with notifications, social media posts from the party, photos of Rory and Logan looking radiant, comments from people congratulating them on their courage and authenticity. Danny had posted a video with the caption, "Sometimes you have to choose your own happiness." I turned off the phone and got to work. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. 3 days later, I was back in the parking garage where Logan kept his precious Tesla. This time, I came prepared. The security cameras had blind spots. I'd checked during my lunch break. 43 years of construction work had taught me to notice structural weaknesses, and buildings were just another kind of structure. I didn't damage the car. That would have been crude, obvious, and illegal. Instead, I focused on psychological warfare, a bag of frozen shrimp, carefully thawed and distributed under the seats and in the air vents. The smell would take weeks to identify and months to eliminate. I left the windows cracked just enough to ensure proper ventilation. The note went under his windshield wiper. You picked the wrong wife to bet on. I was walking back to my truck when I heard the camera click. Zara stood by the stairwell entrance, phone in hand, that predatory smile spreading across her face. Well, this is interesting. Taking pictures of random parking lots now? I asked. Your social media content must be getting desperate. Random? She laughed. Brent, honey, we both know what you just did. The question is, what's it worth to keep this between us? I studied her face. Zara had always been the puppet master in Rory's social circle, pulling strings and collecting secrets like trading cards. She'd orchestrated half the drama in their friend group over the years, always managing to stay above the chaos she created. What do you want? I asked. Nothing too complicated. Just stay away from Logan and Rory. Let them be happy. Or what? You'll show everyone a picture of me walking past a car? She held up her phone, scrolling through photos. Oh, I got much better shots than that. You opening his car door, you reaching under the seats. Very incriminating stuff. I nodded slowly. I see. I'm glad you understand. This doesn't have to get ugly, Brent. Just walk away and everyone wins. Everyone except me. Well, she shrugged, you should have thought of that before you decided to play games with people smarter than you. I left her standing there, confident in her victory. Let her think she'd won. It would make the next phase more satisfying. The boxing gym was my sanctuary, the only place in the city where people still valued honest work over clever words. Coach O'Leary had been training fighters for 40 years, and he could read people like road maps. You look like a man with murder on his mind, he said as I wrapped my hands. Just working through some problems. The kind that end with you in handcuffs? I started hitting the heavy bag, focusing on technique rather than power. Nothing illegal, just evening some scores. Scores. He spat into a cup. You know what I learned in 30 years of boxing? The guy who wins isn't always the strongest or the fastest. It's the guy who's willing to take more punishment and keep coming forward. What's your point? My point is, if you're gonna fight, you better be prepared to get hit back, and you better make sure you're fighting the right fight. I worked the bag for another hour, thinking about his words. He was right about one thing. I needed to be smarter about this. Zara's blackmail attempt had shown me that they were prepared to play dirty. Fine. I could play dirtier. That evening, I drove to Danny's apartment near the college campus. My daughter had inherited her mother's looks and her grandfather's stubborn streak. She answered the door in pajamas, phone in hand as always. Dad, what are you doing here? Wanted to see how you're doing. We haven't talked since the party. She let me in, but her posture remained defensive. The apartment was small but clean, decorated with the kind of inspirational posters that college students thought were profound. Look, Dad, I know you're upset about Mom, but I'm not upset about your mother. I'm disappointed in you. That got her attention. She set down her phone and actually looked at me. Disappointed? You filmed your parents' divorce like it was entertainment. Posted it online for strangers to comment on. What exactly did you think that would accomplish? I was supporting Mom. She's been unhappy for years, and you never even noticed. So the solution was public humiliation? The solution was honesty. Her voice rose. God, Dad, you're so out of touch. This is how people communicate now. Everything's public anyway, so why pretend otherwise? I sat on her couch, suddenly feeling every one of my 45 years. When did you become so comfortable with cruelty? It's not cruel to tell the truth. Truth. I laughed, but there was no humor in it. You want the truth? Your mother's been planning this divorce for 6 months. She's been sleeping with Logan for 8. She emptied our savings account last Tuesday and put the money in an account with only her name on it. She's been telling people I'm emotionally abusive to justify what she's doing. That's your truth. Danny's face went pale. That's not... Mom wouldn't... Your mother is a lot of things, but she's not stupid. She knew exactly how to play this to make herself look like the victim and me look like the villain. And you helped her do it. I stood up to leave. I hope the likes and comments were worth it. Dad, wait. But I was already gone. The conversation had served its purpose. Doubt was a powerful weapon, and I'd just planted enough to keep Danny questioning everything she thought she knew. My phone rang as I drove home. Rory's name appeared on the screen. We need to talk, she said without preamble. I thought we did that at your party. Danny called me crying. What did you tell her? The truth. Novel concept, I know. Brent, I'm warning you. You're warning me. I pulled over and put the truck in park. Rory, you humiliated me in public, turned my daughter against me, and stole money from our joint accounts. What exactly do you think you can threaten me with? Silence on the other end. Then, I know about Logan's car. What about it? Zara saw you. We have photos. Photos of me walking through a parking garage? Terrifying. Don't play dumb. We know what you did. Prove it. Another silence. This doesn't have to get nasty. It got nasty the moment you decided to turn our marriage into a public spectacle. Everything that happens from here is just consequences. I hung up and drove home, feeling lighter than I had in months. The game was finally beginning, and for the first time since that night on the rooftop, I was playing offense instead of defense. The HR complaint came on a Thursday morning. I was reviewing blueprints for a downtown renovation when my boss, Mike Torino, knocked on my office door. "We need to talk," he said, his face grim. The conference room smelled like stale coffee and corporate anxiety. Mike sat across from me with Jennifer Walsh from Human Resources. Jennifer looked like she'd rather be anywhere else in the world. "Brent," she began, consulting her notes, "we've received a complaint regarding your conduct at a social function last weekend." "Which social function?" "Your wife's company party. There are allegations that you made threatening statements and behaved in an intimidating manner." I leaned back in my chair. "Threatening statements to whom?" Jennifer glanced at Mike, then back at her notes. "The complaint was filed by Rory Marrow and corroborated by several witnesses. They claim you threatened physical retaliation and made statements indicating you intended to harm her career and personal relationships." "Interesting. Do you have any evidence of these alleged threats?" "We have witness statements. I mean actual evidence, audio recordings, video footage, anything beyond he said, she said." Jennifer's discomfort was obvious. "Witness testimony is considered evidence, Brent." "Of course it is." I pulled out my phone. "Jennifer, do you know what this is?" "Your phone?" "A recording device. See, I've learned that in today's world, everything gets documented. So when I attended my wife's party last weekend, I made sure to protect myself." I tapped the screen. "Would you like to hear what actually happened?" The audio was crystal clear. Rory's voice handing me the divorce papers. Logan's smug comments. The crowd's applause. And then, clearly audible, Rory talking to Zara afterward. "Did you see his face?" Rory's recorded voice filled the room. "He looked like a kicked dog. This is going perfectly." "What about the HR complaint?" Zara's voice. "Insurance policy. If he tries to fight the divorce or make trouble, we'll paint him as unstable. Jennifer owes me a favor anyway." Jennifer's face went white. Mike looked like he'd swallowed something unpleasant. "There's more," I said, scrolling through my phone. "About 20 minutes of conversation where they discuss fabricating evidence and manipulating the divorce proceedings. Would you like to hear it all?" That's not," Jennifer stammered. "Legal? Ethical? Yeah, I know. The question is, what are you going to do about it?" Mike cleared his throat. "Brent, I think we can consider this matter resolved. Jennifer, can you make sure this complaint is withdrawn?" "Of course, right away." I stood up to leave, then paused. "Jennifer, you might want to be more careful about who you owe favors to. It could affect your career." She nodded mutely, and I walked out feeling like I'd won the first real battle in this war. But the victory was short-lived. That afternoon, Danny's TikTok video went viral. She sat in her apartment, tears streaming down her face, talking about her controlling, manipulative father who was trying to destroy her mother's happiness. The video had been edited professionally with music and text overlays that made her look like a victim speaking truth to power. Within 6 hours, it had 50,000 views and hundreds of comments. People calling me a narcissist, a tyrant, a pathetic middle-aged man who couldn't handle his wife's independence. My name, my face, my entire life had become internet content. I called Danny. She didn't answer. I called again. Voicemail. The third time, she picked up. "What do you want?" "I want to know why you just destroyed your father's reputation for social media points." I told the truth. You came to my apartment and tried to manipulate me against Mom. I told you facts. There's a difference. Your version of facts. Mom explained everything. You've been emotionally abusive for years, and now you're trying to gaslight everyone into thinking you're the victim. The word gaslight hit me like a physical blow. It was Rory's favorite psychological term, one she'd learned from her therapy sessions and wielded like a weapon against anyone who disagreed with her. "Danny, listen to me." "No, Dad. I'm done listening to you. Leave me alone. Leave Mom alone. Just go away." The line went quiet. I sat in my truck outside the construction site, watching the sun set over the city that had turned against me. 45 years old, divorced, estranged from my daughter, and now a viral villain on social media. They wanted a villain? Fine. I'd give them something to really complain about. The first step was financial. I'd built the security software that protected 3 major banks in the region, so I understood money better than most people realized. Rory had emptied our savings, but she'd made a crucial mistake. She'd left the joint checking account active. I transferred every penny to a new account in my name only. Then I canceled her credit cards, her car insurance, and her gym membership. All legally, all within my rights as the account holder. The second step was information. Rory's brother Colby had always been the black sheep of their family, working construction while his sister climbed the corporate ladder. But Colby was also a decent guy who'd never liked Logan. I met him at a bar downtown, away from the trendy spots where Rory's crowd gathered. "Heard about the divorce," he said, nursing a beer. "Sorry, man." "Don't be. I'm better off without her." "Maybe, but she's still my sister." "I'm not asking you to choose sides. I'm asking you to help me understand what I'm dealing with." Colby was quiet for a long moment. "What do you want to know?" "Everything. How long has this been planned? Who else is involved? What's her endgame?" He sighed. "Brent, Rory's always been calculating, even as a kid. She'd planned these elaborate schemes to get what she wanted, and she was good at making other people do the dirty work." "Meaning?" "Meaning Logan isn't the mastermind here. Neither is Zara. They're just tools. Rory's been planning this divorce since last Christmas. She's been documenting every argument, every disagreement, building a case that you're unstable." "For what purpose?" "Alimony. She wants half of everything you've built, plus ongoing support, and she wants to make sure you can't fight back." I processed this information. "What about the storage unit?" Colby looked surprised. "How do you know about that?" "Lucky guess. What's in it?" "Documents, financial records, some personal stuff she didn't want you to find during the divorce." "Such as?" "I don't know specifics, but she's been moving things there for months." I bought Colby another beer and asked for the address. The storage facility was on the outskirts of town, the kind of place where people kept furniture they couldn't fit in their apartments and boxes of Christmas decorations they'd forgotten about. Unit 247 was in the back row, away from the main office. The lock was electronic, but I'd installed the security system for this place 2 years ago. Getting inside took less than 5 minutes. What I found was better than I'd hoped. Financial documents showing Rory had been skimming money from joint accounts for over a year. Correspondence with divorce attorneys dating back 8 months. Photos of her and Logan together, time-stamped from before I'd even suspected anything. But the real treasure was a notebook in her handwriting, detailing her strategy. How to manipulate Danny against me. How to use Zara's social media influence to control the narrative. How to coordinate with Jennifer at HR to make me look unstable at work. Every step of my destruction, planned in advance and written down like a business proposal. I photographed everything, then put it back exactly as I'd found it. Evidence was only useful if they didn't know I had it. My phone buzzed with a text from Rory. "We need to talk, tonight." I typed back, "Your place or mine?" "Neutral ground, Riverside Diner. 1 hour." Perfect. The diner had excellent security cameras and recorded everything. Whatever she was planning, I'd have proof. I drove home to change clothes and prepare for the next phase of the war. In the mirror, I looked like a different person than the man who'd signed those divorce papers a week ago. Harder, more focused. They'd created this version of me. Now they'd have to live with the consequences. The Riverside Diner sat on the edge of downtown, a relic from the 50s with red vinyl booths and waitresses who'd been working there since the Carter administration. Rory was already seated when I arrived, looking perfectly composed in her designer outfit. Logan sat beside her. Of course he did. I slid into the booth across from them, noting the positioning. They wanted me to feel outnumbered, cornered. Amateur psychology from people who thought they understood manipulation. "Brent," Rory began, her voice carefully modulated to sound reasonable. "We need to end this." "And what?" "The games, the petty revenge, the financial manipulation." I signaled the waitress for coffee. "I haven't manipulated anything. I've simply exercised my legal rights regarding my own money." Logan leaned forward. "Come on, man. Canceling her credit cards? That's just vindictive." "Vindictive would be posting videos about your personal life on social media." "Oh wait, that was you guys." Rory's composure cracked slightly. "Danny was expressing her feelings. Danny was performing a script you wrote, just like this conversation." I pulled out my phone and set it on the table, recording app visible. "But please, continue. Tell me more about how I'm the problem." They exchanged glances. Logan looked uncomfortable, but Rory pressed on. "We're prepared to be generous in the settlement. You keep the house, your business assets, your retirement accounts. I'll take my personal belongings and we'll call it even." "Generous," I laughed. "Rory, you've been stealing money from our joint accounts for over a year. You've turned our daughter against me. You've tried to get me fired. And now you want to negotiate? I haven't stolen anything. Unit 247 at Riverside Storage. Should I keep going? Her face went pale. Logan looked confused. What's Unit 247? He asked. Rory ignored him, focusing on me. You broke into my storage unit? I visited a storage unit that's paid for with money from our joint account. Technically, it's as much mine as yours. That's illegal. Actually, it's not. I checked with a lawyer. But the financial documents you've been hiding probably violate several disclosure requirements for divorce proceedings. Logan was looking back and forth between us like he was watching a tennis match. What financial documents? I smiled at him. She didn't tell you about the money she's been moving around? The accounts in her name only? The fact that she's been planning this divorce since before you two started sleeping together? Rory. Logan's voice was uncertain now. Don't listen to him, she said quickly. He's trying to manipulate you. Am I? I pulled out my phone and scrolled to the photos I'd taken. Oh, here's a page from her notebook. Your name appears 17 times, Logan. Want to know what she wrote about you? I started reading aloud. Logan is useful, but not particularly bright. Easy to manipulate with attention and flattery. Will serve as perfect cover for divorce proceedings, but long-term relationship unlikely. Logan's face flushed red. That's fake. It's her handwriting. I can have it authenticated if you'd like. Rory reached across the table, trying to grab my phone. Stop it. I pulled the phone back. There's more. Should I read the part about your exit strategy? How you plan to dump Logan as soon as the divorce is final? You're lying. But Logan's voice lacked conviction. Check her storage unit yourself. Unit 247, Riverside Storage. I'm sure she'll give you the access code. Rory stood up abruptly. We're leaving. Sit down, Logan said quietly. Logan, sit down. She sat, but her composure was completely gone now. The mask had slipped, revealing the calculating predator underneath. Logan turned to me. What do you want? I want the truth, all of it. How long has this been planned? Who else is involved? What's the real endgame? Rory tried to interrupt, but Logan held up his hand. For the first time since I'd known him, he looked like an actual leader instead of a corporate puppet. Start talking, Rory, and don't lie to me again. What came out over the next hour was worse than I'd imagined. The affair had been orchestrated by Zara as revenge for something I'd done years ago. I'd reported her for embezzling from a previous employer, which had gotten her fired and blacklisted from several companies. Zara had spent 3 years planning this revenge, using Rory's dissatisfaction with our marriage as the foundation. She'd introduced Rory to Logan, encouraged the affair, and helped plan the public humiliation at the party. But Zara had also been playing Logan, feeding him information about Rory's real plans while pretending to be his ally. The goal was to destroy both our marriage and his career, leaving Rory isolated and dependent on Zara's continued friendship. You're telling me, Logan said slowly, that Zara manipulated all of us. She's been planning this for years, Rory admitted, but I thought I could control it. I almost felt sorry for them. Almost. Here's what's going to happen, I said. Rory, you're going to return every penny you stole from our joint accounts. You're going to publicly admit that the HR complaint was fabricated, and you're going to tell Danny the truth about what really happened. And if I don't, then I release everything. The financial records, the planning documents, the recordings from tonight, all of it goes public, and you can explain to your employer why their creative director has been running elaborate fraud schemes instead of working. Logan was staring at Rory like he'd never seen her before. You were really going to dump me? Logan, I can explain. Were you? She couldn't meet his eyes. It's complicated. He stood up and threw a 20 on the table. No, it's not. It's simple. You're both crazy, and I want nothing to do with either of you. He walked out, leaving Rory and me alone in the booth. Congratulations, she said bitterly. You've ruined everything. I didn't ruin anything. I just stopped pretending not to see what was already ruined. What do you want from me, Brent? What will it take to end this? I finished my coffee and stood up. I want you to disappear from my life, completely. No more games, no more manipulation, no more using our daughter as a weapon. And if I do that, then I'll let you walk away with your dignity intact. Keep fighting me, and I'll make sure the whole city knows exactly who you really are. She sat there in the booth, looking smaller and more vulnerable than I'd seen her in years. For a moment, I remembered the woman I'd married, before ambition and resentment had turned her into someone I didn't recognize. But that woman was gone, if she'd ever really existed at all. I left her sitting there and walked out into the night, feeling like I'd won a battle, but not the war. Zara was still out there, still pulling strings, and Danny was still convinced I was the villain in this story. The real fight was just beginning. The warehouse district looked different at night, all shadows and empty windows that reflected the city lights like red eyes. I'd chosen this location carefully, isolated enough for privacy, public enough to avoid any accusations of impropriety. Getting them all here had required separate lies to each participant. I told Rory that Logan wanted to meet privately to discuss their relationship. I'd told Logan that Rory had more evidence to share about Zara's manipulation. I'd told Zara that both of them were planning to throw her under the bus to save themselves. And I'd told Danny that her mother was in trouble and needed her support. They arrived within minutes of each other, confusion evident on their faces as they realized they'd been deceived. The warehouse I'd chosen was one of my construction projects from 5 years ago. I still had the keys, and I knew exactly where every security camera was positioned. "What is this?" Rory demanded, looking around at the empty space. "This is the end," I said simply. I'd set up a projector and screen in the center of the warehouse, connected to my laptop. The first image that appeared was a financial spreadsheet showing every transaction Rory had hidden over the past year. "Ladies and gentlemen," I announced, "welcome to the truth." Zara tried to leave, but I'd locked the doors from the inside. "Sit down, Zara. You've been the puppet master for 3 years. Time to take a bow." "You can't keep us here," Logan said, but his voice lacked conviction. "I'm not keeping anyone anywhere, but if you leave now, everything I'm about to show gets posted online in 1 hour. Your choice." Danny looked confused and scared. "Dad, what's going on?" "Your mother and her friends have been playing a very elaborate game, sweetheart. I thought you should see the rules they've been using." The next slide showed Zara's social media posts from 3 years ago, documenting her firing from her previous job and her vows of revenge against the small-minded construction worker who'd reported her. "Zara's been planning this since 2021, I explained. "She identified your mother's dissatisfaction with our marriage and decided to weaponize it. She introduced Rory to Logan, encouraged the affair, and orchestrated the public humiliation at the party." "That's not true," Zara protested, but her face was flushed. "Really?" The next slide showed text messages between Zara and Rory, discussing strategies to destroy Brent's credibility and make him look unstable. Danny was reading the messages, her face growing pale. "Mom, is this real?" Rory couldn't meet her daughter's eyes. "It's more complicated than it looks." "How is it complicated?" Danny's voice was rising. "You planned this whole thing? The divorce, the party, getting me to make that video?" "We needed to protect ourselves." "From what? From Dad finding out you were cheating?" The next slide showed Logan's employment records, including performance reviews that painted him as ambitious but unreliable. Then came the real revelation, emails between Zara and Logan's ex-wife, discussing ways to teach him a lesson about loyalty. Logan stared at the screen. "You were working with Patricia? She deserved to know what kind of man you really are," Zara said defensively. "So you destroyed my marriage to Rory to get back at me for divorcing Patricia. I destroyed your relationship with Rory because you're both selfish people who deserve each other." The final slide was the most damaging, a recording of Zara talking to someone on the phone, explaining her entire plan and laughing about how easy it had been to manipulate all these stupid people. The warehouse was silent except for the hum of the projector fan. Danny spoke first. "Mom, how could you do this to Dad? To our family?" "Danny, you don't understand." "I understand perfectly. You wanted out of your marriage, so instead of being honest about it, you decided to destroy Dad's reputation and make me hate him." Tears were streaming down my daughter's face, and for the first time in months, they weren't tears of anger at me. Logan was pacing back and forth, running his hands through his hair. "This is insane. All of this for what? Revenge?" "You all got something out of it," I said. Rory got her freedom and a financial settlement. Logan got a relationship with a woman he thought was sophisticated and successful. Zara got her revenge against me and entertainment, watching everyone else suffer. "And what did you get?" Rory asked quietly. "I got to see who you really are, all of you." I walked over to the laptop and closed the presentation. "Here's what happens next. Zara, you're going to delete every social media post about me and my family. You're going to publicly apologize for spreading false information, and you're going to stay away from all of us permanently. And if I don't, then I release everything. Your employer, your family, your social media followers, they all get to see exactly what kind of person you are." She nodded reluctantly. "Logan, you're going to write a letter to HR withdrawing the complaint and admitting it was fabricated. You're also going to explain to your colleagues that the rumors about me were false." "Fine." "Rory." I turned to my soon-to-be ex-wife. You're going to sign an amended divorce agreement. No alimony, no claim on my business assets, no ongoing financial support. You take your personal belongings and whatever money you actually earned yourself. That's not fair? Fair? Danny's voice cut through the warehouse like a blade. Mom, you tried to destroy Dad's life for money. Nothing about this is fair. Rory looked around the warehouse, seeing her allies abandoning her one by one. What if I refuse? Then I hold a press conference tomorrow morning and show the entire city what I've shown you tonight. Your employer, your friends, your family, everyone gets to see the real Rory Marrow. She was crying now, the composed mask finally completely gone. I never meant for it to go this far. Yes, you did. You planned every step of this. I unlocked the doors and gestured toward the exit. You all have 24 hours to comply with my terms. After that, the offer expires and everything goes public. Logan left first, not looking at anyone. Zara followed, her usual confidence replaced by sullen defeat. Rory paused at the door. Brent, I'm sorry. I really am. No, you're not. You're sorry you got caught. She left without another word. Danny and I stood alone in the empty warehouse, the projector still humming in the silence. Dad, she said quietly, I'm so sorry. I believed them. I helped them hurt you. You were manipulated by experts, sweetheart. It's not your fault. Yes, it is. I should have trusted you. I should have asked questions instead of just accepting what they told me. I put my arm around my daughter's shoulders, feeling like I'd gotten the only thing that really mattered back. What happens now? She asked. Now we go home, and we start over. We walked out of the warehouse together, leaving the ghosts of my marriage behind in the shadows. The city lights stretched out before us, no longer looking like a prison, but like possibilities. I'd won the war, but more importantly, I'd won back my daughter's trust and my own self-respect. Everything else was just details. The game was over. I'd gotten the last word.